So, we're going backwards. If you're just joining me, this is the new nerd in town. We are going backwards in time. So I started with my Tuesday show, The Flash. Now we're going to hit up Monday. We're going to hit my favorite show this season. Everybody knows it. It's got one of the best titles for this season so far, and that is Gotham. Gotham, Rise of the Villains. Rise, 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 villains. Please, let me hear it. Let me hear it, villains. Rise for me. Gotham this week, it did get a little better from last week. For those of you who watched or listened to last week's episode in which I discussed, or episode 5 where I discussed Gotham's episode from last week, we were introduced to Firefly, who is this timid girl, part of the Pike family. Pike family were a famous group within Gotham of they were a famous group of arsonists, and they were usually called in to take care of some fiery type jobs. And it seems like there was a fire theme in DC the DC comic television world this week. However, so when one of the Pike brothers was incapacitated by Gordon and his new task force, they had to basically find someone who was the same size, because this guy was pretty much like the Gopher, where he would go into the ducts and tight spaces for the other two brothers. So they looked at their sister, who she's a bit timid. And when you hear something like Firefly and you see the previews for the next coming week's episode of the show, and you see her with a flamethrower, and you see the mask and the getup that she had on, I have to say it was very, very disheartening to see that she was kind of a sissy, but she was very timid, because her brothers were the forceful ones in the group, and she was kind of like the outcasted sister of sorts. So she wasn't really the brains of the operation. What's a really good analogy of it? She was like Cinderella. And her brothers were the ugly stepsisters and the evil stepmother. That's exactly what it was. So when Firefly was given her chance to, quote unquote, spread her wings and step up and work with her brothers, I thought maybe then she would be fascinated by fire, because at first, since she was the outcast of her brothers, she wasn't really into the whole fire thing. But upon working with them and really getting a feel as to how they work and what this arson thing was. I mean, she knows what arson is, and she probably didn't like it, but that's because she wasn't part of it. But now that she did get a taste of it, she would be like, ooh, fire, yes, I am Firefly. It didn't really turn out that way, and she made herself a flame retardant suit so that she would not get burned, because she did get burned on a job. And fast forward to this week, she's on the run after accidentally killing a cop, part of Jim Gordon's task force. So she's on the run with Selena Kyle. Now, Selena you could tell she's becoming more grown up and she's becoming less trusting of people, the people in her very, very small, very, very limited list of trustworthy people. So this Pike sister is a girl that she grew up with and a girl that she cares about very, very much, and um, she hides her, and she kind of tells her to, grow a pair, and you need to accept the fact that you messed up, you killed a cop, we need to hide you, we need to get you out of here. So they do just that. And upon doing so, they realize that they need money. So Selena Kyle, she's a cat thief. So she's not a cat thief in the sense that she steals cats, but she's a cat thief in which she steals money, jewelry, and all this other fun stuff. So they go to what apparently looks like a sex slave auction and rob all the participants to their face. And Firefly was, again, very timid, very, very like, oh, I don't know if this is a good idea. All the slums are there. What if I get shot? What if this? What if that? Selena Kyle told her that, gave her the story of saying, hey, listen, there's girls in there that are just dealing with terrible, terrible things. They're being treated like garbage. You need to go in there. You need to make a difference, and then we could get you out of here. We can get you to get you out of here, so you never ever have to worry about the cops or anything again. So now something clicks in her head. Once she sees the girls in the cage being auctioned off, something clicks in her head, and she's just like, wow. And now she becomes a little bit more confident. Although, when she goes back to kind of, she then goes from timid to crazy, and she kind of goes off the deep end. And after Selena Kyle does try to help her and whatnot, but she burned her brothers alive. After that, she just can't take it anymore. She went from like to like, I'm gonna burn everybody that's wronged me. So burns her brothers alive, her two remaining brothers, and now she just won't take anything from anyone. So she goes back to the nightclub, the sex slave auction place, and she burns people alive there. Why? Because she is Firefly. Hear her roar. Now, like, she's doing what she should have been doing the whole time. Of course, on her escape attempt from the nightclub, she's met with Jim Gordon and his task force, who are now royally pissed because she accidentally killed one of their coworkers, or team members or something like that. So she, now with this newfound, this newfound kind of like animosity that she has, she tries to take on the police. So she blows up a car, but doesn't realize that one of the shots that the cops got off on her had kind of nicked one of her gas hoses, and now there's gas pouring all over the place, and of course flamethrower gas leaking. Doesn't really turn out too well. So now she's burned from head to toe, and the rest is the end of the episode. But I want to go back because I want to go back and talk about something else that was interesting. We found out 2 weeks ago that Theo Galavan is actually trying to bring down Bruce Wayne and the Wayne family because of something that the Wayne family did way back years ago. So Theo is living out a family sort of revenge, kind of like a revenge plot against the Wayne family. So in doing all this, for all these weeks, I have been talking about like how Theo Galavan is trying to be this man who is both bad for Gotham City, but trying to be good for Gotham City. And I thought that Theo would be like kind of the person that Bruce would look up to, in the sense of, here's a man that can do two things at once and try to help this city. Now, Bruce Wayne is obviously going to use his father's influence from what he found in the newly found Batcave, and kind of whatchamacallit, kind of, you know, he takes what his father teaches him and makes him, how can I say this? Makes him realize what he needs to do in order to help, not suppress, but help gain the revenge that he so desperately wants for his parents' death. That's what I was looking for. I thought Theo Galavan would at least show him the way to kind of lead that double life of being a billionaire, playboy type figure, but also doing some good in the city, and kind of give Bruce the thought process of, I can do this. I can be Bruce Wayne by day and Batman by night. Turns out I was completely wrong. So, but hey, these are all speculations off of each episode. And when you find out something new in the episode, you find out something new in the episode. And it changes the whole dynamic of everything. I mean, look at TV shows like How to Get Away with Murder. You think one thing, and then the next week you watch the next episode, and you're like, oh no, I was completely wrong. I'm sure that's probably what's gonna happen after I watch Thursday night's episode, this past Thursday night's episode. Anything I thought about Asher and Bonnie, because I went on a complete tirade on that. I could be completely wrong about it, and I'll admit it. And I was wrong about Gotham, right there. So so now, as a viewer, I'm very cautious as to how Theo Galavan is going to basically lure and talk to Bruce Wayne. Because we all know now what Theo's real intentions are with Master Bruce. But that can only be, we'll have to see how that relationship both evolves and, I hope not, devolves. Which, unless there's another Bruce Wayne sitting in the shadows, I don't think we need to worry about anything too horrible happening to Bruce Wayne. Now, sticking with Theo Galavan, he has quite the chokehold, hint hint, on Penguin. We know that Theo has Penguin's mother in custody. In custody, sounds like a police officer, has her kidnapped and hidden. Gaming till 1 a.m. and then going to work at 6 a.m. Not things that you should basically be doing, but hey, that's the sacrifice of being a live streamer and trying to become a personality. Ain't that right, folks? That's right. Anyway, so now Penguin is basically forced to do whatever Theo Galavan wants him to do, because Penguin's mother is is everything to Cobblepot. So we basically we do see an unraveling of the Penguin, even more so than when he was just being punched left and right by Carmine Falcone um, uh, and the other crime bosses of Gotham. Like, he took a pretty bad beating, and he still came out on top. And now Theo Galavan is making sure that he stays on top, but also does his bidding because he's got his mother. So, interested to see. Penguin did send his right-hand man, Butch, to go undercover, and in doing so chopped off his left hand. And then Theo Galavan, having seen the bait and taken the bait, gave Butch a hammer. It looked kind of like Thor's hammer, as a replacement for his hand. But then we do see that Theo Galavan discovers that Butch was sent in to infiltrate, thus hopefully finding Cobblepot's Penguin's mother. And Theo plays some mind games via his sister on Butch. So Butch does go back and tell Penguin that he does know where his mother is kept, and you do see Penguin preparing to go rescue his mother, but I'm not too sure how that's going to really work out. That seems like a trap. It seems like Butch, who's very weak-minded, the Force is not strong with him, very weak-minded. Basically, if you try enough, you can brainwash him. And that's, again, it won't be really too much of a downfall for Penguin, but it's not looking too good for him. We do know that his father was cast. Paul Rubin, who is famously known as Pee Wee Herman, is going to be playing Penguin's father. So that is going to be very interesting. We also do have 2 new casting news coming from the Gotham universe, and that's Mr. Freeze. His name is escaping me right now, but he is in House of Cards. The actor is in House of Cards, and he's playing Mr. Freeze, who was kind of iconized, he was portrayed. There's a good sentence. He was portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Joel Schumacher train wreck that came out in the mid-90s. So Mr. Freeze has been casted, and they also casted Dr. Hugo Strange, who is supposed to be one of the original villains of Gotham. And obviously, you can't have a season named Rise of the Villains if you don't have a Joker or Joker-type character or Joker thought process. See what I did there? I'm on to you, Gotham. I'm on to you. Hugo Strange and some others like Scarecrow, Riddler, and Penguin. So those are 2 casting newses. Now, I did just mention a villain who also sort of cracked on Monday night's episode. Now, we have been seeing sort of the unraveling of Edward Nygma. Starting at the end of season 1 and in these first episodes of season 2. The end of season 1, he kills the abusive boyfriend of Kristen Kringle, a love interest of Edward Nygma. So he was doing what he thought was justified, and obviously getting another bad man off the street. Well, now the voices in his head, which is a seemingly more confident Edward Nygma, um, is telling him to step up as a man. And this episode, we hear that things are going well between Edward and Kristen Kringle, but they're not going as well as Kristen would like. She would like him to be a bit more assertive, a bit more of a man, and not a, not really like a ninny, like asking, is this okay, is that okay, and doing things cautiously. He was a little too cautious in the relationship. Well, he has her come over, and he decides that he's going to tell her the truth. He's going to tell her that her abusive ex-boyfriend did not disappear. Or he did kind of disappear, but it was by Edward Nygma's hands. And this, of course, you know, she didn't really love the guy, but at the same time, she did, you know, she's a human. And once you find out that one human killed another human, that third human that's hearing this is going to react. So she reacts, in which makes Edward react, and thus Edward accidentally asphyxiates Kristen Kringle and kills her. So we do get to see kind of like a music montage thing of him holding Kristen's lifeless body, Firefly being caught on fire, and Selena Kyle watching it, Gordon watching it, all of this stuff that's just happening at once, and Theo Galavan sitting across from Bruce Wayne, and like this epic music, and it's just going through each scene of like, how is this going to shape and mold the rest of the season for each of these characters. And that's the scene too, part of the cut scenes that they do. You see Penguin preparing to go find and get his mother, his captive mother. So Riddler has arrived. So now, hopefully, we'll see the complete unraveling of Edward Nygma. And bye-bye, Edward Nygma. Hello, the Riddler. There was one character missing, and I just want to know, what is Barbara's purpose? Every time... you did see her, but this week, you didn't really hear from her. Usually you hear from her saying like, well, when's it my turn? Because she's anxious to get out there. And Theo keeps saying, your turn will come, your turn will come. Now we're all kind of biting at the apple, trying to figure out what does Theo have planned for what does Theo have planned for Barbara? What's Barbara, not Gordon, she's not Gordon yet, but what is Barbara, Jim Gordon's ex-girlfriend, who's, you know, got some issues of her own to deal with right now? What is her purpose? What is this purpose that he has her for? Because she wants to know, but we really want to know too. So please, Theo, from the bottom of my heart, let us know. Absolutely let us know what you're thinking. The end of the episode, we see Firefly being carted down the hallways of this facility. She's completely wrapped in bandages. You could tell from like the eye, the cutout for the eyes, that her skin is badly burned, and she has two orderlies walking with her, and they're talking about how she was she was burned completely, but that the suit that she was wearing that was supposed to protect her from fire for the most part, because we know that people aren't completely fireproof, it's just fire retardant. That what does she do? Like, they said it mended to her skin, so she's absolutely completely fireproof. Like, her skin is completely fireproof. Ooh, chilling. So she's being brought through this facility, and it's called Indian Hills. Now, again, I do have to preface this with, I don't read I've never really read Batman comics. I do have a lot of the Joker comics around here, and comics in which Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, even Mark Hamill, I believe, read about the Joker in order to get them into their respective Joker characters. But they're walking through this facility called Indian Hills, and then it says a subsidy of Wayne Enterprise. And the two orderlies mention that this facility keeps testing on these humans that have these special abilities. So call it metahuman, call it Evo, call it mutant, call it whatever you want to call it, but we found another facility that does this, and it is a subsidiary of Wayne Enterprises. Now, will Theo Galavan, maybe is Theo thinking of visiting this facility? Is there anything in his plan, or is this just a place that, or is he going to use this as a way to kind of bring down Bruce Wayne the way he wants to? I don't know. I'm not very well versed in Indian Hills, although now that they do have Doctor Strange and Mr. Freeze casted, that's where we're going to see him. I have a feeling. I have this sensation running through my bones, running through my skin, that we are going to see these two new casted characters within the walls of Indian Hills. So I'm excited. I'm really, really loving this rise of villains for Gotham. I was a little upset, as a lot of people were, about the untimely passing of the one they called Jerome. But in reading some of the articles from producers and from Cameron Monaghan himself, it seems as though the whole theory behind Jerome was that he was embellishing and carrying an idea of the Joker. The Joker is my absolute favorite character. I cannot wait for Jared Leto's portrayal as the Joker. I think he's going to bring a new light to the character, and I am super excited to see it come out. Not as excited as Force Awakens, but almost as excited to see Suicide Squad. Now, back onto our continuing on with our DC comic part of the show, and strangely enough, a new addition to TV Talk with the New Nerd, on the New Nerd in Town. It's because, not because I haven't been watching it, but because it was the first time that it was ever aired, ever, on TV. It is a series premiere, and I get to talk about it. And I'm super excited to talk about it and have everybody here, all the millions of watchers out there, the people that are watching the stream, the thousands of people that are listening to it live, and then the billions of people because we all know that iTunes is everywhere. That's right. I'm on iTunes now. Check it out. Go to iTunes, type in The New Nerd in Town, and you'll see my last episode, episode 6, is sitting right there, waiting for you to download and waiting for you to listen to the sweet, sweet sounds of my voice as I talk about TV shows. But anyway, back to what's really why we're all really here, and that's the TV shows. And of course, the big season premiere this week did so much better than everybody anticipated, myself included, is Supergirl. Oh my God, that show actually looks like it's going to be a great show. And I'll tell you why. I will tell you why right here and right now. Because it is a strong female-driven cast. But that's not all. That's not all. A very strong female-driven cast. And also, it is not as dark as Arrow, The Flash, or Gotham. And that is what is going to make it completely separate from those three shows, but also bring it to the forefront. And thus, I really think that DC is rocking the small screen. And they did such a great job with Supergirl. And it's only the first episode. It was only the first episode. Now, I have to say that I was a huge skeptic of this show. The preview, it did have its funny little jokes. It did have its cute little one-liners, but I didn't want it to get lost in that one-liner type of atmosphere. I didn't want it to become like the sitcom comedy show. Like you're almost laughing too much that you forget that there's supposed to be action and that she's Supergirl, and some of the action that we see in Man of Steel, in Smallville, in Superman Returns, in any of the Superman movies, actually anytime there's been super or wonder in the title of the name of the person we're talking about, yes, there's going to be action because they're a hero and heroes love the action. Supergirl definitely delivered on that as well, but it was not too dark. It was very light, and it kept you interested. It kept me wanting to watch more. And I think that the other thing that I mentioned that made this a strong TV show was the strong female-led cast. There are two men as part of the cast. One being Jimmy, who comes from Metropolis to the city, which I don't even remember the city's name, that Kara is in. But Jimmy comes over from Metropolis and leaves Kal-El, which I'm sure everybody should be familiar with, is Clark Kent, who is Superman. He comes there, and we find out why later towards the end of the episode. But Melissa Benoist, she's someone to look out for. She is definitely someone to look out for. She's got the light and fluffiness of like an Ellie Kemper, in which when she's Kara Danver, when she's her human self, her version of Clark Kent, she's light and airy and bubbly and all that stuff, but she can be serious when she becomes Kara-El, or Supergirl. By the way, anyone who did watch the season opener, the series opener, did you all notice the two awesome cameos that are going to be reoccurring characters? Now, originally announced was Helen Slater. She used to play. She played Supergirl way back when, and she plays Kara's Kara's foster mother, her Earth mother. We'll call her Earth mother. But an unannounced yet surprising cameo was Dean Cain. Yes, that's right. Superman himself from Clark and Lois and Clark is the foster father of Kara. I just, when I saw Dean Cain, I smiled. I did this. I was like, that is the best casting ever. That is just awesome right there. That is just basically putting Adam West as Bruce Wayne's father in like flashback scenes of Gotham. That's exactly what that was. So going into the story of what Supergirl is going to be all about, she's basically going to be Superman in her own city. And unlike Superman, though, she is going to be working with with a government organization that apparently has been tracking these alien species, because when Kal-El came back after when Krypton was destroyed, he came by himself. But Kara, for some reason, she got lost, and she appeared on Earth 24 years after Kal-El. So Clark Kent had been around for 24 years. In fact, he had already been unveiled as Superman and has already been flying around and stuff. That Kara had a 24-year lapse. But hey, it's cool. These alien people don't really age that well. So while he's doing his own thing in Metropolis and maybe in Gotham, maybe, we'll get to that in a second. Kara's doing her own thing in her own city. Another casting that I really liked that I know was definitely announced, but I just didn't pick up on it, was Callista Flockhart. And one of my coworkers pointed this out. He said she plays the Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada character. But here's the thing: she did it well. She does it very well. The oblivious yet, and pardon my French, bitchy boss of Kara, who doesn't care, and she's so oblivious that she can't really. She will, never really figure out that Kara is Kara-El, a.k.a. Supergirl. But anyway, so when Kara came 24 years later, another ship had followed behind her and crashed on Earth, and that ship was carrying some of the worst villains of Krypton, but really of the universe, because apparently they did what all aliens do, or predators do, is collect their prisoners and bring them all in, different races and different species and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we're going to see the different villains pop up in this dynamic. That's usually what happens in these that's what's been happening in these comic book movies and TV shows, that we usually find out that there's some open door, hint, The Flash, and that's where all of these villains are coming out of and coming from. So that's where there's a ship that crashed that was harnessed. There's, a Supermax, basically a Supermax transport crashed, thus allowing the prisoners out. A very strong female-led cast, female-dominant-led cast, I should say. You do find out that Kara's stepsister, right? Yeah, foster sister or whatever. Her sister is working for this government agency that Kara is now going to work with, and help them capture or kill. The first prisoner kind of died, but yeah. So they're going to be working together in order to do things. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm used to, like everybody else, Superman works alone or Superman works with the Justice League. However, working with humans should be an interesting grouping of people and everything. Now, the age-old question. I've been ranting and raving about this since I started this stream. I feel as though the Arrow and the Flash television shows should have been tied in to the DC cinematic universe. I think Steve Amell would have been an amazing Green Arrow for the big screen. He's doing a great job on the small screen. I'm not saying that he should not be on the small screen. He is rocking the small screen as Green Arrow. And the same goes for Grant Gustin as Barry Allen / The Flash in that television show. However, the powers that be at DC in the DC cinematic universe decided to recast the Flash with Ezra Miller, and that's really all my grievance is with Ezra Miller, is the fact that he got casted over Grant Gustin without really giving it a chance. Now, I don't know what their thinking was. I mean, I have my suspicions about it, but Arrow and the Flash will not be part of the DC cinematic universe. At least the small screen versions of those characters. They'll probably be recast. Well, Arrow will probably be recasted, and we all know Ezra Miller is playing Barry Allen in the Flash. However, the first episode of Supergirl, the series premiere that we saw on Monday, it kept it open for a tie-in with the DC cinematic universe. And I'm very interested to see if there is a tie-in. Now, I did a little bit of research when I had a hot second today to do so, and there was an article in which they were looking for someone who had a similar build to that of Henry Cavill, who plays Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman in the Man of Steel and in the upcoming Batman vs. Superman and Dawn of Justice movie. Whether or not... Now, when you did see Superman in the series premiere, he was... You didn't see Henry Cavill. You didn't see him as well as you see me right now. In fact, you saw him kind of in the shadows type thing. Like you saw him like this, or you saw him as a blur in a motion shot picture taken by Jimmy. So they're keeping it ambiguous enough, I think, in order for there to be a tie-in. I'm not saying that because they started I think because they started Supergirl after they started filming Supergirl, maybe after they started filming Batman vs Superman, and maybe Suicide Squad. I don't know, but I would say, yeah. If DC were to call me up and say, hey man, so we got this great idea of making of bringing Melissa Benoist and the cast of Supergirl into the DC cinematic universe, and I would say, yeah, sure, do it, write it well and do it, and then I'd beg them to get Grant and Steve to join in as Arrow and Flash, but that's my thing. So again, they kept it ambiguous enough where you saw Superman, but you didn't see Superman. Um, and again, I mean, the show is not supposed to be about him. The show is about her. But there's that obvious tie-in because they are cousins, and she was originally supposed to protect him, but because of the time lapse of 24 years, he kind of protects her, and he sends his protection over to her. It was a very light and hearty, very light and hearty. I was a huge fan of it, and apparently it rocked out. It did very well. So I know Melissa's watching right now, or listening. She'll be listening later. She told me she emailed me. You know, we email from time to time. She'll be listening to this podcast tomorrow while she's at the gym. So Melissa, congratulations to you and the rest of the cast of Supergirl. That was a fantastic series premiere. Yeah. So that is my take on Supergirl.